Welcome back to part 2 of making a Tudor costume. We are now covering the rest of making my kirtle. So after making the underlayer of the kirtle, as shown in the last video, I'm now covering it by folding the edges of the fashion fabric over the edges of the base layer, and then those will be hand stitched down with a whip stitch. Now that the trim is all sewn on, I am adding glass pearl beads across the top edge, alternating between a dark blue and a silvery gray. These beads came from JoAnn Fabrics, and the same process for the beads and trim will be repeated for the back portion of the kirtle's bodice. After stitching the beads and the trim onto both the front and back, I'm now lining it, and I'm just doing this by having the edges of the lining folded under and then stitching it to the inside of the bodice with a slip/whip stitch all the way around the top and side edges, leaving the bottom edge open. For the eyelets, I simply used silver one-piece eyelets and an eyelet setter, and I made the holes by first punching a hole with a hole punch and then stretching it out with an awl. Here are the skirt panels for the kirtle. They are basically just wedge shaped. So here is the main wedge shaped in the center, and then one on each side, and the back is basically the same thing. And I serged all the edges before filming this because that's a boring process that doesn't really add anything to the experience. And this is the back panel, the back section of the skirt, which is basically the same as the front, except the center piece is cut twice as wide as the centerpiece of the front skirt. Now I am attaching the front and back halves of the skirt to each other simply with a straight stitch and leaving a 10-inch gap at the top so it can be put on and off without ripping it. I pleated the skirt down to the same measurement as the front and back halves of the bodice, and then I pinned the waistband of the waist of the skirt straight across at the natural waist of the kirtle bodice, and then stitched it in place with a whip stitch using a heavy upholstery thread. After sewing the skirt down, I then finished this portion by stitching the lining over the top of the edges where the skirt was attached, folding the edge under, and slip/whip stitching it in place. Okay, here I am leveling the skirt. I am measuring it so it is the same distance off the ground all the way around, and to make this easier on myself, I raised my dress form several inches off the ground. I faced the hem of the skirt with a piece of twill tape and then simply whip stitched it down all the way around and then pressed it. And now here is the kirtle all finished, in need of a bit of ironing, but done and ready for me to move on to the rest of the gown. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my sewing vlogs, and I will follow up by posting about the making of the main gown soon. Thank you.